Now we'll start with our presentation. This is one of those, again, that requires in our interaction. I have a lot to share, but the time is limited, so I will be fairly quick. But if you like, the skills and the guidance needed is there in the slides, and you can take a copy of the slides if you want to work on those skills. But let me just say that when we talk about unlocking the power of language, there are two aspects of it. One is that language is very much our primary means of communication. In a small way, we do communicate with a smile, we do communicate with a gesture, but 90 plus percent, all of it is language. So if you don't know to communicate properly using the right phrases, select the right words. I don't know if some of you remember our presentation about escaping the matrix. I talked about being impeccable with your words, choosing your words very carefully. Amazing how most conflicts starts with the wrong words, and most of them also end with the right wording. So those who are skilled with language have a much better time of it, have better relationship, don't have too many conflict on their hand. So language is very, very important, but also before we can deploy language the right way, there are some provisos, some things we have to be watchful for. Otherwise, we will, if you like, still have an issue, even though you could be the most accomplished in English speaking or your own native language. I notice we're almost hitting 200. I don't know if that is the growth of the team or is this a very interesting topic for people? I think must be both. So in an office environment, friction, conflict is common. Whether you are dealing with a colleague, a team, a client, or a vendor, the opportunities for friction, conflict, for things to go sour, go sideways is many. So we need to look at this from that perspective, even at home with your partners, with your children. Almost the same philosophy really applies. So if you watch carefully, you will find those who are really intelligent and smart amongst us pick up the skill and deploy it at every turn rather than save it for until a friction arises. So let's see what are the elementary things that have to be there before you get to the skill part. That's the first skill that very few people are capable of. In fact, and I don't pretend to be even amongst those. If you are able to leave your ego, having this sign as a really good sign, I'm thinking to have one made to put outside my house. But if you can enter any discussion, any meeting, whether in the office or at home, and leave the ego outside with the shoes, and that shows you how much we value the ego. It goes along with the shoes. If you can, this is your first, if you like, admittance into the unlocking of the language. The second one, the second one is going to be difficult, and I'm going to invite somebody, and please be quick, don't be holding back. I've discussed this before, but maybe most of us forgot. Defense is the first act of war. Anybody remember that? And if you do or don't, what does it mean to you?
All right. I personally think it's a natural tendency for everyone to, be defensive of the way they react to certain situations, and especially in a conflicting kind of an environment. I think it's human, it kind of comes out immediately.
Oh.
You always want to be on the defensive track to kind of allow people to say why you did what you did. And that's one of the things that we as humans tend to do. But probably as we sit back and retrospect, we would probably change the way we had to react in the first place.
Okay. So let me just say very quickly, That is a very valid explanation, but it's an explanation. When I'm asking for participation, see if an example comes to mind. And I'm going to show you everything Charlotte said versus a quick example. The example, a story, for us humans, we love that. We get it straight away. So if you say to your friend or partner or whoever, don't bring your phone to the table. These days, we all know that, whether you, because you look at Instagram or WhatsApp, whatever. If if it ends there, we've learned something. Don't bring your phone to them. But what is the natural reaction? Well, you do. You know, why you're telling me you doing it all the time? Can you see, oh, here you seem to be defending, but actually the war started. The moment you don't take the input as input, the moment you start to defend, the war started. Or I might say, you haven't tidied up your room, say to a child. And what are they going to say? Maybe they will talk about their sibling. They didn't do it, you know, kind of, why don't you talk to them? Or look at your room. So instead of acting on the facts, we start defending, the war starts, we don't get anywhere. So bear those in mind. Ego and defense makes what is going to come now makes it almost impossible to implement. So see if you can leave the ego outside of this discussion and don't get into defense game that only, if you like, throws oil on the fire. It doesn't help. So let's now begin with some examples, and I will invite you to see if you faced a situation where this would have been helpful. So in any meeting situation, you will end up with, let's say, a difficult position. And somebody present it, you argue with them, they say, no, it's practical, I don't want to do it, I can do it. Then this can be, now we're talking skills. This could be, and remember those sentences, maybe keep them in a list handy. There will be a number of them. I don't expect you to remember them, but with practice, they'll come to mind. Let's consider this from a different perspective. So first, this put you back to say, okay, there is a different way to look at this. And if you're able to say that, everybody goes into neutral. At the moment they're in first gear, about to push and argue, you say, let's look at it from different perspective. And I could ask, I don't have a lot of time to wait. If it comes to you, raise your hand or speak up. I will give you a chance. But I find that when I invite you and wait, I lose a few moments. So that kind of approach encourages collaboration and inclusivity. Let's look at it from a different perspective. Right now, we're looking at it from, let's say, how much margin. You say, no, let's look at it from different perspective. What could be a different perspective? Maybe quality of the relationship with the client or with the team member. Maybe the long-term effect of if we do it this way or that way. So financial is only one, but there could be different perspective, each of them equally, if not more important. How often do we say, I am open, like we are in a friction situation, we are in a contentious, I am open to other ideas. That diffuses the atmosphere straight away. You're telling me that you're going to give me space to express. You're telling me you're willing to listen. That everything I'm sharing now is saying there is intelligence and it can be unlocked with just few choice statements. And those are what I'm encouraging you. That's why it's a long list of them. The meeting will not allow us to delve each there, but list them, remember them, keep them in notes on the side. Okay? So that's where trust and open-mindedness comes in. This is where sometimes data and information helps you avoid the friction. So based on this data, we should do this. So For instance, you were saying no, we cannot compromise on that point, and maybe it's true. You should not compromise, but based on the data, what could be the data be? You might say, okay, the data says the worst case scenario is there will be maybe a loss of 5% to deal with this issue. Okay, based on this data, we could do it differently. It is, after all, being quantified, the potential loss from accepting, let's say, a condition that you're not happy with. Rather than take it black and white, I don't like it, therefore, no deal. Okay? So logic and credibility is on the table. Now, you've heard enough of examples. Jump in. This is what I would prefer. We're often reluctant to put our personal view, but it's really healthy for a discussion, for a relationship, for the other party to say, what is it you're after? Not everybody are willing to be open. And if you say it, this is what I prefer, you're actually being vulnerable as well as assertive at the same time. It's a very unusual position. And if you can do that, your personal needs actually get addressed much more efficiently than you beating about the bush and arguing and making things difficult for both of you. Okay, somebody takes this one. We'll never know if we don't try. I think Tawfiq was going to say something in a previous occasion. How about it this time?
Yes, about the war, that if we do not reach to a mutual agreement, you start to be defensive. After that, you start a long war, which is not healthy, and you are putting all your efforts not at the right place. So, to be brave at the beginning, reach a mutual agreement in a way or another, and go to the next step or next beneficial things.
Okay, I'm going to allow anyone to explain if that makes it easy on you, but try at least to follow it with an example. So, if and I know it's not always easy to think of an example, but those are the most powerful way to communicate an idea. If you say an example, so if somebody says, "No, we would never sign," let's say, a financing agreement, or we would never sign a 3 years agreement because that could cause all kind of liability. This is where we will say we will never know if we don't try. We've never done a 3 years contract. Maybe it is worth doing. That doesn't mean to say you end up doing a 3 years contract, but you're opening the dialogue to say, we will never know if we don't try. You keep saying no, you keep saying no. We're not getting anywhere, but let's try it at least once. Okay? So, exploration and risk taking. This is very powerful, especially when you're dealing with a sticky boss or a sticky colleague, and you're promoting that and saying, well, let's take a risk. You'll never know if you don't take a risk. What about this one? Let's try finding common ground. We've disagreed about everything, and I can feel the meeting is going sideways, is becoming contentious. The best way to diffuse, remember, this is an intellectual or linguistic intelligence. I'm trying to bring the temperature down so that a rational dialogue can happen. So let's try finding common ground. What do you think? Amr, what do you say?
I can give example on this is that I have been working with another partner on business, and we had a lot of challenges in terms of finance, payments, what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. And then we sat together, and then we found a common ground. What works for us, both of us together, what doesn't work for us together. So because we sat together and discussed about it, we found some areas where we can engage together, some areas where we will not engage together.
That's very true. And believe me, once you find even one small island of common ground, it engenders the trust, the help, the whole feeling becomes positive. Oh, so we're not just in contention, we do have some common interest. And that is, again, where intelligence is. What about this one? Who wants to speak about this one? Let's take some time to reflect. When would you bring this up? What do you think, Zach?
I think this is very good. I've had it maybe recently, maybe in the past couple of weeks. When a decision needs to be made and the answer is not so clear, right? And sometimes I like to say, let me sleep on it, and I will kind of get the good answer maybe in the morning, or just to give some distance from making the decision before jumping into it. I've made a lot of bad decisions in the heat of the moment, as you know. And I think it's good also sometimes to take a step back and say, okay, let me think about this before we take a decision, right? So even yesterday we were choosing an office, which location of the building we want to take the office, the front or the back. So I said, okay, give me some time to think about it, and then maybe the answer will come with some distance.
Yeah, very valid. And let me say, this is obviously from the first person viewpoint, but also you're giving space to the other party, because you said it's a conflict resolution. Instead of reaching yes or no, or let's agree to disagree, or let's take some time to reflect on it. Gives both of you space to part company on really good terms, even though you didn't agree. Okay, so and you come across as an intelligent person, as a level-headed person. I hope you're getting the message. It is those are very key statements that are worth remembering and keeping in your arsenal of your like tools. Wherever there is conflict, friction, dead ends, keep them handy. They save the day more often than not. This one is quite powerful for the right person. Who wants to talk about this? Sajib? Remember, I'm calling the directors often to put the heat on the senior people, because they should be the most ready to come forward, unless you guys want to jump in before them. Go ahead, Sajib.
Faiz, I'm not sure if this is my correct observation, but I use it all the time when a tough question is being asked and I need some more time to think. Sometimes I buy time asking the person, can you please elaborate? So why I listen to him elaborating things, I also frame my answers and think about it.
Yeah, that's a good strategy to buy time and give yourself thinking space. So, in one sense, that's one strategy. The other thing is the same to the other party is I'm listening. I hear you. Remember, in conflict situation, what are we usually doing? We are trying to speak faster, louder, overcome them with our logic, our argument. It's a rare person who says, can you elaborate? That shows a very level-headed, very rational person who's saying, I'm giving you the space, the table, the stage, speak up. It's all yours. And when you do that, they relax. They're no longer in this contention and this argument. And let's see who can speak faster and louder. So very few people have the confidence even in themselves to let the other party elaborate. If you can do that, you've achieved quite a high level. Okay. What about this one? Who wants to take this one?
Guys, Satish here.
Yes, Satish.
Yeah, so I had a situation yesterday night. We have logged in one order with HP in January 1st, and there was a ping pong going on between us and the HP operation management team. Not able to process because of the quantity, because of the weight and all those stuff. Since 7 days we were stuck and we have a penalty situation. Then yesterday night at 11:30, these guys were sitting in US. Yesterday night at 11:30, I said, let's work together, come on teams, let's see what we get. He joined the team, he explained his side, I explained my side. It was just 2 clicks. We were able to solve the issue.
That's really good. Now notice how we listen to Satish. He's telling us a story, and we don't need a lot of cognitive faculty to understand what he's saying. We are human, love to follow a story. He did this at this hour, that happened. They said this, I said that. We got the idea. They used this technique, and the example made it so easy for us to follow. Okay, so and shows respect to them, they would have shown you respect. Okay, this one, what's your opinion on this?
Okay. Good morning, all. Regarding the opinion, what's your opinion on this? I'll use an example here. We were working on a consulting assignment. Like the client was very specific to have resources on site. For a 2-hour assignment, going on site in a different country is going to be an expensive affair. But they are very particular because it's sensitive in nature, so they don't want to do it online. So we were just putting our case, saying that is going to consume time and all that. So we said that why don't we make it for kind of a model where my partner there will come and sit there, but we will only pick up a piece of time for putting our thoughts. What's your opinion to get this done? It's a kind of an hybrid. So finally we clicked on it. So rather saying no immediately, we just put a thought and ask for their opinion, and sounds better for them, and things moved on.
Excellent. Yes. Again, it's very easy to see what Center is trying to share with us by doing that. And the other party finds they're respected, their input is valued, definitely worth doing. Amiga, have to go a bit faster because we hit half past the hour almost. Would you be open to something different? This is very exceptional way where you facing a dead end. Giant, what do you think?
Good morning, sir, and Happy New Year. Basically, we had an opportunity related to ELV services, and the client had a fixed idea about what he wanted, and we had our own solution. So when we discussed on the desk, we were not getting anywhere because he was still persistent on his solution, and so we discussed the pros and cons. So still we were not getting anywhere. So I asked him very politely that would you like to are you open to something different solution? I can get you a better solution which will accommodate your request and my request, and cost wise, commercials, everything will match. So the client was very happy. He said, "Yes, go ahead." So I asked my team, my project manager, to go ahead and give the third solution, and they accepted it.
Yeah, excellent. So that's really now, had Giant just gone and bombarded him with a third or fourth solution, chances are the guy says, "Oh, for goodness sake, we can hardly agree on first and second. You bringing," but by asking him, "Would you be open?" Now I've taken permission. He will find it hard to say, "Why are you springing this on me at this point?" So it is very valuable to diffuse and disarm an opponent. So invites feedback and shows mutual trust. What about this one? This, I think you have heard it mostly done in third parties, whether you were listening to a podcast, or a political debate or something. This is what I heard you say. Did I get it right? Along with what Sajeev said earlier, this is also a good tactic for buying time to respond. This is what I heard you say. Did I get it right? Obviously, you must have heard it, but now you're showing him you listen to every word. You understand what they're saying, and you respected them, and that's really, for most people, is very gratifying when somebody says to you that. So let's try and put it all in a nutshell before we close. So to resolve conflict, friction, etc., in any environment, first of all, leave that ego with the shoes out of the door. That guaranteed, that is almost 90% of the journey. leave it out, then you will be guided by logic, by common sense, etc. The other thing is, don't use defense. You're warring. At the moment you defend, especially, I'm going to tell you, especially with your family. That is, if you don't want war at home, avoid this tactic. You might think it's clever, it's driven by ego, and it starts a war. And only after you've really managed those two, and you have to practice them for a while, by the way, only after you managed over these two massive hurdles, then you can go the skill, and the skill has a chance to succeed. Trying to practice all that we have shared with those two in the way is impossible. See if you can do it, and hopefully you've learned something from all of this. Thank you very much, and have a great day, and rate please.